Hi, I'm James Jones with Golden Years Senior Living Advisors, and I assist seniors in their families, complimentary service, whenever they need to find a retirement community. Today, I want to talk about National Fall Awareness Week. We just passed the first day of fall, and pun on words, intentionally, we're talking about when seniors get older and they become a fall risk. So golden years, this podcast is to empower seniors so that their golden years can be their best years. So as a senior ages, their strength and mobility decreases and they become a fall risk. My mom had a good friend who was just going to the grocery store and she tripped on a curb. She fell, she broke her hip. She's never been the same. And it's been very challenging for her to recover. And she's doing okay now, but how can you prevent a fall risk? Best just not to have it at all. So I have somebody here today, very special because he knows a lot about not only the fall risk, but how to prevent it. We have Jeff Whittle with Silver Strong Fitness. Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I'll share a little bit. He's a former radio personality turned senior fitness Sherpa. But if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's talk about how a senior can prevent themselves from being a fall risk and hurting themselves.
Sure, James, and thanks so much for having me on. And I look forward to the opportunity to maybe talking a little bit about fall and fall prevention specifically. But, I was a radio announcer, started in high school. I was on the radio already back then. I just loved it. But it isn't the healthiest lifestyle. It's not very active. You're sitting in the studio, maybe playing music, uh, doing the news and sports as I did later in my career. But by the time I turned 40, sitting in that studio and not eating very healthy, I was overweight. So my wife and I joined a gym, got a personal trainer that they recommended since I didn't know anything about exercise. Turned out we had a lot in common. I really liked him. We went to the same university together and all of that, University of Iowa. So we hit it off. And the best part is I loved training. I really liked the idea of challenging myself physically and mentally, going in every day. Now, I was only 40 at the time, but I was 30 pounds overweight. And then he moved away. I stopped going to the gym, stopped eating healthy like I had started to do, gained all the weight back, looked up the trainer for a second time, started driving to meet him, got back in shape, lost the weight again. And at that point, I'm like, I want to become a personal trainer myself because I want to know how to take care of myself and do all of this myself without having to rely on someone else. And then even pass that knowledge on to others. And since I was already, by when I got certified, like 55 years old, it's like I didn't really see myself working with the 20-year-old guys that were just trying to get a big chest and big biceps to impress the ladies or something, because of watching my own family, my mom, my sisters get heavy, affect their mobility. My sister had a leg injury at work that really affected her mobility. And I realized, and I could see now being a trainer, that there was a lot that could be done to help people that were very poor at movement, had trouble getting around, like with some targeted exercise, strength exercise, and balance exercises, they could be so much more stable on their feet. It would really improve their quality of life. So that's why, in fact, the gym I was training at, they had a trainer that was 72 years old and trained seniors. And I go, I'm 55. I'll be 72, however, in 17 years or whatever. But I saw that as like, okay, instead of getting farther away from the people I would be training, I'm like aging into this whole giant group of people that are charming, smart, have wonderful life stories, working with seniors. I always got along with my parents' friends, they were older, but it's like I love talking and hanging out with seniors. They've got so much information to share and knowledge and stories and things. It's like, I'll work with them. And so that's what I specialize. So after I got my main personal trainer certification, I got an additional certification as senior fitness specialist that really helps you identify a lot of the issues that older folks have and how to address those issues, including, a lot of knee pains and hip pains and shoulder pains and osteoporosis and muscle loss and weakness and balance issues and things like that. So that kind of got me off and running. And then so when COVID hit and I lost my radio job, and we were moving from LA to San Diego, my wife's like, well, now's the time if you want to make that career switch. The internet's kind of hurting radio as an industry. So I'm like, yep, I think it's time. Radio has lost its charm for me. Time to move on. And I've got a whole nother career ahead of me. So that's where I am.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. Since we just finished National Fall Awareness Week, can you tell us a little bit about the statistics of falls in America, in California as well?
Yes. So it's devastating. 1 in every 4 senior will fall in a year. 3 million trips to the emergency room with injuries every year by seniors. 800,000 broken hips. And you'd mentioned your mom's friend. A third of those won't live a year after that because the injury, it can be so devastating. The surgery to fix it is really invasive. People wind up in bed, leads to a cascade of health problems. It can really be the tipping point. You mentioned your mom's friend has never really been the same, even when they recover from the injury. Maybe limping, walking hurts, just affects their ability, or it's just devastated their self-confidence so much that now they're afraid of future falls, so they just cut back on their activities. They just stay at home. They're afraid to go to the grocery store again because they fell the one time they went. And then the most tragic is 32,000 seniors in the U.S. die of fall-related injuries every year. So we had a close family friend. I knew him for 30 years. He'd had a stroke during COVID. It really affected the left side of his body, so he walked really poorly. Usually used a cane and stuff, but he was on some uneven pavement. He got out of a car in the driveway, and the driveway was tilted towards the street, and he fell, hit his head, and never regained consciousness. And they took him off of life support 2 weeks later. So it happened to a dear friend, family friend of ours.
Sorry.
So I know in California alone, I think the last year they had numbers that I saw was 2021, and there were 2,300 2,147 seniors died of falls in California alone in 1 year. And that week, California actually has one of the lowest fall rates in the nation per 100,000, but still a lot of deaths because we have so many people. So huge, carnage from falls. It just, the pain from the injuries and even the fear of falling, as I kind of alluded to, it causes isolation. And folks are afraid to go out and do things with their friends and their family. Maybe they're afraid to go visit their kids and see the grandkids because they don't feel confident walking down the stairs to their house, out of their house and around anymore. So it's a huge thing for sure. And we can do a lot to reduce someone's fall risk. That is the good news is, someone doesn't have to be, so afraid, or we can reduce. We can't guarantee that no one will fall again, but I've had people that they've fallen way less. They used to fall maybe a couple of times a week. Now it's maybe once every couple of months or something. Now, fortunately, hasn't resulted in serious injuries for them, but I have had people that I work with that fell a lot. They've still fallen and broken a wrist or something since I've worked with them. So I'm not going to say that, people that work with me are never going to fall again, never get injured, but reducing the likeliness of a fall if we strengthen their bones, maybe there'll be less damage when they fall, less likely to break a hip or an arm or a wrist trying to catch themselves and things like that. If they're stronger, a little more flexible from working with me, maybe they won't get hurt. They can actually fall and their bodies can take that, shock. Hopefully they'll fall on the carpet or they'll catch themselves and go only halfway down or go down slowly. I mean, there's a lot of things. It's not always this devastating. Sometimes it certainly is, but anyway, those are some things as well.
Okay. And who is at the greatest risk of a fall, and what are the reasons for that?
So people with sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss, a big risk. So that's losing muscle slowly from our 30s up until our 70s, but it really catches up with us in our later years. You'll see people with skinny arms and legs, even if they maybe have some extra weight around their stomach and stuff, but not in their arms and legs. Well, losing that muscle mass in their legs means their legs are weaker, less likely to hold them up. They're less likely to pick those feet up when they walk, which you want to do. It's more of a fall hazard when you shuffle along or barely pick your feet up off of the floor, whether it's laziness or you just don't have the muscle. So that's a big one, strengthening the legs, not having much coordination, not having the nervous system where the brain tells the feet to move, but if the nervous system isn't carrying a very good signal, maybe the feet don't move very well. So we work on tuning up that nervous system as well through stepping drills, coordination drills. So the feet, a lot of stepping exercises, stepping up and down, stepping sideways, stepping over things as well. A big thing I work with. So not having that ability or not just even being aware of it or thinking about it makes them a fall risk. Stiff ankles puts people at a huge risk of falling, because that's like the shock absorber. If we step on something that's not even, we need that ankle to be able to absorb that, just like a shock absorber in a car is able to absorb the bumps and not have us bouncing all over the road. It's exactly what we need. Hips mobility is number 2, but ankle mobility is huge. So folks, urge them, even if they're sitting on the sofa watching TV during the TV commercials or whatever, pumping those ankles like you're pressing the gas pedal and leaving off, doing ankle circles, because not just forward and back, but side to side, or if we do ankle circles, that's really a good one. It also helps strengthen the lower legs. So having not only thigh and hamstring and butt muscles strong, the lower leg muscles, the calf, the muscles on the shin, the muscles on the bottom of the feet, having all of that. Actually, going barefoot helps. People think putting us in these Hoka shoes, and I know doctors recommend them, and if you do have a problem, they're good, but you need some barefoot time to strengthen, especially the big toes. There's like toe exercises. Can you raise your big toe and keep the other toes down? Can you keep your big toes down and can you raise the other toes? Things like that. So foot mobility and strengthening the actual foot helps as well reduce your risk of a fall. Barefoot training is becoming much bigger as well, along with toe strength. A lack of toe strength has been a big fall risk as well, especially if you're like lean forward. You need to press down on those toes to kind of counterbalance. If you don't have that, you're much more at risk of falling head first.
Okay. And tell us about the psychology of falling.
So when someone falls, I kind of mentioned it earlier, they're really afraid of falling again. So they limit their activities, and that causes several problems, physical and emotional. There's isolation and depression because they're stuck at home. They're not going out doing the activities they like to do. Maybe they like to go for a walk around the park with their friends. They're going to see their friends less, their family less. But the physical aspect of it is they usually sit on the sofa or sit at the kitchen table because they're afraid of falling while standing up and walking, so they do that less. The trouble is that only makes the legs weaker. They use it or lose it. If you're not walking, if you're not going to the grocery store and walking through the aisles, um, and just sit on your sofa at home, you're gonna get weaker even faster. So it starts a big downward spiral, and then after however many months of just sitting on the sofa, you're going to feel extra unstable when you do get up. You're even going to have trouble standing up from the sofa. So you're not only, at a fall risk, you're at a bigger fall risk. So you really need to keep moving. Now, the thing at the grocery store, use the shopping cart as a walker, and do that and walk it all the way out to your car, and type of thing. So just, some little strategies, try to find safe ways. When I work with people on balance, if it's on Zoom or even if I go to their house, which I do a few occasions, we try to work in a narrow hallway so they can put their hands on both sides, keep some, be safe, always thinking about being safe. If I'm working on balance or doing stepping exercises at the gym, I always try to do it with a railing or a bar in front of them to hold on to, or even a pole, like a walking stick to do it. And then I'm behind them with my hands, ready to catch them. So we don't want them just doing this in the middle of an open room where they can fall and there's nothing to grab onto, especially at the beginning when they're not stable and we're trying to build some strength and build some balance into them. Once they get better, then we don't have to worry as much. But if you do it at the kitchen counter and you can just do sideways walking along the counter, or even do little squats, just go down a little bit and stand up, just do like side leg raises or rear leg raises, or just curling your leg, bringing your heel up towards your butt, holding on with both hands and balancing on the one leg while you're doing that. But try to maintain 3 points of contact. 2 hands and one leg on, 2 hands on a railing or a counter or wall, one foot on the floor, or if you're using your hand, both feet on the ground and the other hand on a point of contact. So always try to do 3 if you can, not just 2. Don't have one hand up and one leg up at the same time if at all possible, especially if you're unsteady. You can build up to that where you feel more confident, but that may be down the road. So folks just starting off, think safety first, because if you fall and get hurt while trying to improve your balance, and we failed in that effort to improve your balance, and now with injuries you're less likely to train, or maybe the injury will keep you from even doing that, being mobile in the future. So
you help people with their balance and their mobility. Is flexibility also part of the fitness program that you have?
It certainly is, James. I mentioned the ankle flexibility is huge. Hip mobility and flexibility, kind of turning your foot side to side, point the toe out, point the toes in, while you can do it while you're sitting there or standing, and support on one leg and the other, kind of work it around. So hip mobility is huge. But core strength, back flexibility is important as well. If the back is really stiff and we're kind of hunched over and we're kind of waddling like that, we're at a greater risk of tipping over as well. Trying to keep so we can be upright and look ahead. I mean, it's good to look down, but if we're just bent over looking down, we're kind of at a risk of falling forward or not seeing things in front of us that we need to walk around. We're only looking where the feet are. We may bump into things or not see a bigger hazard up ahead. So we want to be able to be upright as well. So working on posture, which is kind of part of flexibility really, and mobility, having the back straight and strong as opposed to being hunched over and in that forward position, which means we're more likely to fall. The head forward, if I kind of do a sideways angle, everything's leaning forward. We're just more likely to fall forward as well. So if we're more upright, we're more stable on our feet.
Okay.
And then lastly, and I mentioned it a little bit, if you're more flexible, if you do fall, you're more likely not to get injured. You're more likely to avoid injury if you do fall, if you're more flexible.
Okay. Tell us about proprioception.
Proprioception. So that is knowing where your body is in space. It's a great term doctors use, and it's used in balance a lot. And that has to do with maybe your nervous system. So the brain tells the legs, I want to walk up these stairs. The nervous system carries the signal to the legs, and the nerves are infused into the muscles, and they tell the muscles how much to contract, how hard to contract, which muscles need to contract. So it's a three-part system. The nervous system is like the wire between the electric switch on the wall and the light. If the wire isn't very good, you flip the switch, the light may or may not come on, or it may kind of come on dimly and buzz a little bit or something if the insulation's broken and things like that. Those nerves degrade as we get older. And if we don't use them and challenge them very much, they're just not very efficient. So we do things. So I do a lot of specific types of drills and work into all the exercises. I do ways to make the brain and the muscles very precise movements to make that nervous system activate. And so that way, it's like if we want to tell our foot, okay, the sidewalk's broken, I need to step over this and put my foot down here in a specific spot. Your nervous system is connected to the right muscles. It accurately tells what muscles need to do what to be there. So it's where our body is in space, usually our limbs, but it's also just straight balance to know when we're falling, all of a sudden we see that, okay, the horizon is tipping sideways. Okay, that must mean I'm tipping sideways because I'm pretty sure the horizon is going to be flat, or whatever. So that's one of our first clues. So, the eyes, the inner ear, which is our sensory for balance, very interconnected. And we need to keep those sharp as well. So all of a sudden, when we feel we're starting to tip to one side, we can take the corrective measures to get back upright, as opposed to, oh, I'm falling and I can't do anything. And now I'm out of the camera screen right now because I'm falling to the ground, So those are all tied into balance and very important to help us realize when we're losing our balance. We may see it before we even feel it, and able to make these minute second to second corrections, as opposed to only correct when things have gone sideways or forward so much that they can't be corrected. So just getting that whole nervous system tuned up, eyes, ears, muscles, nerves, and brain, all one unit to keep you as safe as you can. It's like we're bulletproof in as many ways as we can make us as safe as we can be.
Thank you. So, can you tell us some success stories of a senior who you worked with who was a fall risk or was worried about falling or even fell in the past, who they don't have that as an issue as much after going through your program?
Sure. One lady that I work with, I've started about a year ago. We had a mutual friend. She had met me and already knew this lady who became my client, and she has braces on both of her lower legs because of muscle issue that affects her feet and things. So she's not very much able to walk. She has the inserts in the legs that kind of helps hold the foot in place there. They call it foot drop, where they're not able to like bend that foot and pick it up and set it down. So they have a brace and a thing down below that holds the feet up. So they kind of walk like this, but at least they can walk. But she's very unsteady on her feet and would fall multiple times a week, sometimes even, every day on a daily basis. She So she was introduced to me. We started doing some stepping exercises and things, and she saw from the very first session, like, okay, this is exactly what I need to be doing. This is going to help me more than anything I'm doing, just trying to walk and stuff like that. So I have video of us doing stepping exercises from the first day we started working together to 6 months later. And it was amazing. She had to hold on and could still barely do some of these drills while holding on with both hands, could still hardly do them. Now she doesn't even have to hold on, and
Wow.
she's stepping. And I had showed this comparison video, the before and after, to some doctors at this event. And the doctors were like, that is just an amazing improvement in only 6 months of just twice a week. I have a lady that had vertigo, which really affected her balance, of course, as well. And she would fall often. She now falls, instead of maybe a couple of times a week, maybe once every couple of months. She did break a wrist falling, but her vertigo was so bad she would have to do exercises before she could even get in the car and drive to the post office or the grocery store. She never does them anymore. She never has vertigo. She's still a little bit, falls. She's in her late 70s and a little bit unbalanced and has some other health issues. But she feels so much safer. When I started working with her, even to walk down her hallway, she pretty much had to hold on to the walls to walk down her own hallway. Now she doesn't. The doctor even told her to get rid of her walker because she walks better without her walker than she does with her walker. Now, 8 months ago, they told her, don't go anywhere without your walker. And now they told her to get rid of her walker because you move better without it. So, I mean, that's a huge improvement in quality of life, in peace of mind, ability to go see friends and things like that. So those are a couple of ones that I'm really happy with, just to make people's day-to-day lives just more pleasant. That's so much more rewarding to me than maybe help guys or gals in their 20s look extra sexy or something like that. That's more aesthetic and ego. This is actually quality of life, or even life-saving if they're not falling and suffering, fatal injuries or something like that. So, I mean, it's really a matter of life and death and quality of life for older people. So I find it more rewarding. And now I'm going to be 64 this year, very soon myself. So, I enjoy working with folks in my age group or a little older and helping them live the best life they can live right now, do the most they can do with their remaining years.
Wow. Thank you. Both were beautiful stories. Thank you so much. Jeff, if somebody's watching this and they feel they could be a fall risk or have fallen, or they have a loved one who potentially has this issue or who has fallen as well, what's their next step to get in touch with you? What would be the next step for them?
Sure. So I train, about half of my clients on Zoom. So anybody anywhere can actually work with me, including someone in Europe, people around the United States, as well as training people in person here in San Diego. So they can just reach out and email me. My email is info@silverstrong.fitness. They don't need to put a .com or something on the end of it. It's just .fitness. My website is www.silverstrong.fitness. My phone number, and they can, reach out to me through that as well. If someone just wants to, maybe learn more, get a few suggestions on doing it on their own, I have a PDF with 12 balance exercises that I really recommend, that I do with my clients. It has pictures of the balance drills, has step-by-step instructions, and it even has links to YouTube videos. You can click on the link and it'll take you right to the YouTube video of each one of those. That's free. I just offer to people as a service. If they want that, they can email me and say, hey, I want that document you have, that PDF. of the balance exercises. Love to pass that on. And maybe folks work on those. Maybe they'll say, okay, I still want your help for accountability. That can be a thing as well. I just need you to help me through these, or maybe we work together for a little while and then till they get them down, and then they do them on their own, and we do some other stuff that they eventually say, okay, I can do these on my own. So yeah, just reach out, whether it's if you have a question, whether it's an inquiry about how we could maybe work together, either online or in person. But I'm glad to be a resource. Don't feel like, oh, he's going to put the hard sell on me. I'm not going to put the hard sell on anyone. They just want to call and ask me a few questions. I'd be glad to answer those.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. It's great to have you here. If anyone's watching and you're concerned about falling, or have a loved one who you're concerned about them falling, please reach out to Jeff at Silver Strong Fitness. I'm sure he can be of a great service to you. And as you mentioned before, this is a matter of life and death. This is a really big deal. So thanks for doing such great work and helping people stay safe and healthy and fit. Thank you, Jeff.
My pleasure, James, and thanks for having me and giving me an opportunity to spread the word about health and fitness and balance safety to everyone.
Oh, you're most welcome. Thanks for watching, everyone, or listening today, everyone, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And thanks again. Bye-bye.